Hi, my name is Emily Counts, and today I want to talk about some of the differences between adult work and child work. So it is human nature to work, but the kind of work that a child does is different than the kind of work that an adult does. I first want to draw your attention to some of the differences about human life compared to other animals. We have a very long childhood. Chickens can scratch and peck successfully at about 2 weeks. Ravens, a very smart bird, they'll be competent and able to handle their world in about 2 years. That's a very long time for birds. Cats are fully mature at 6 months, and chimpanzees are developed at 7 years. Humans, on the other hand, are typically unable to independently meet their needs until about 15 years old. That's a really, really long time. That's a massive outlier. We also have elders. We have adults who live past reproductive age and often also past a productive life as well. Women live 20 to 30 years past menopause, and this is true also in hunter-gatherer societies. It's not just a fact of modern medicine. This has been part of the human plan for a very long time. So that means we have 35 to 45 years that the human being is not in the prime of your life. That's a super long time. Why does our species do this? Alison Gopnik, one of my favorite modern thinkers on childhood development, describes 3 life stages in human development. She calls these stages the human life story, as in the life pattern of a human being. So these are biological stages, they're not cultural. The stages are explore, exploit, and empower. She liked that alliteration. And these relate directly to childhood for exploration, adulthood for exploitation, and elderhood for empowerment. She describes that each stage of a person's life, their cognitive faculties are optimized for certain tasks. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be doing things from one of the other stages. As an elder, you can still be doing productive work, and as an adult, you can still be exploring, but your biological physiology is optimized for these other kinds of activities. None of these activities are inherently superior to any other. They're all just part of human development. And the first stage I want to talk about is adulthood, the stage you are probably in and that you probably have the most familiarity with. So the adult works to produce something of value. We gather resources for survival. As humans, we use our minds for our tool of survival, and we also perfect our environment. So that means you're going to be a farmer, and you're going to think about how you can best get crops from the environment. You're going to perfect that environment because without your act, there's not a lot of food coming out of the ground. You could be a carpenter, and you could be building a house with tools, and you would also be perfecting your environment. You would be making a better shelter than the ones just naturally occurring in nature. In the modern world, this productive work is very intense and often inaccessible to children. We don't generally bring children out to the construction sites because we're not just using hammers and handsaws, we're also using power tools. And we don't bring children to farm with us as much anymore because we're not out there hand sowing seeds. We've got combine harvesters and seed drills, big, massive equipment. We also have a really massive division of labor that spans the globe, and it's very complex. We have people who make just materials as well as final products, and we have people who work on, shipping and selling and managing those products. So our division of labor is very complex as compared to a few thousand years ago. Like if you can imagine a marketplace in Mesopotamia, the craftsperson would have probably gathered the materials, made the product, sold it themselves. And that's just not how we're doing things today. Described by Alison Gopnik, adults exploit their environments, which means that they take what they already know and the resources they already have, and they solve problems. Right? So they're working to maximize efficiency. They want to conserve resources, including time and money. And part of this efficiency is that they're not generally coming up with totally new ideas unless a good enough or obvious answer isn't working. Instead, what adults are usually doing is optimizing. I know how to do this. How can I do it better? Adults are exploiting their knowledge, their resources, time, and opportunities. described by Montessori, children should be made to realize that all great achievements in culture and in the arts, all sciences and industries that have brought benefit to humanity, are due to the work of men who often struggled in obscurity and under conditions of great hardship. Men driven by profound passion, by an inner fire to create, with their research, with their work, new benefits, not only for the people who lived in their times, but also for those of the future. In this quote, Montessori is explicitly talking about history education and how we should introduce children to history and geography and other cultural studies, and she's also describing a path towards educating for peace. But you can also see here her reverence for the adult as a creator and a worker. This is a part of what Montessori sees as a well-formed life. The adult as the creator, the adult as the productive worker. If we think back to the last slide, how do we get this wonderful tool of survival, our minds? And how do we take what we already know? How do we know anything? Those two components are the work of the child. This great truth evokes in us a profound sense of humility and wonder. The children who live a life more pure than ours are divine workers. Without pretensions, without pride, they accomplish humanity's magnum opus, the construction of man. Children work too, and their work is to build man. Children do not participate in the same productive work as the adult. Typically, we're not seeing 3-year-olds, making tchotchkes that they can sell on Etsy. That's just not happening. Their work is fundamentally different because it has a different end. The work of the child is to build an adult human being. Nobody can do this work for them. It is an act of self-creation. In The Formation of Man, Montessori says, to become a man of 20 years, he must take 20 years. In Alison Gopnik's model, children are exploring during this stage of life. They're considering possibilities, exerting maximum effort, using their maximum resources of time and energy. And they're doing this to build their bodies and their minds. This is not just a stage of physical growth. This is a time of mental development. This is how we will have that tool of survival we can later exploit and how we can optimize from things we already know. In all other animals, how they live is selected for them species-wide by nature. But for humans, this must be discovered anew in every single human being. You had to discover this. This time of childhood is literally set aside for nature for us to explore and learn and develop ourselves. So children are going to be gathering nutrition to fuel and grow their bodies. They're also using their senses to interact with the world. You cannot build knowledge without interacting with the world. Through interacting with the world, they're building knowledge systems, an accurate model of the world around them, and they're beginning to understand causal relationships. So a child is not consciously thinking, I better learn how to speak so that one day, when I'm an adult, I can record a PowerPoint presentation. They do this thing because they like to do it. They like to do it because nature has made exploration a rewarding experience for them. The time the child has to do the special work is biologically limited, and it caps out at about 7. Then they begin transitioning to the exploit adult characteristics. That doesn't mean that it ends. Children explore for a very long time, at least through elementary school, but the explicit focus of their development stops being explore. This makes early childhood education really important. So as you can see, between our adults and our children, these are in conflict. They want different things. The adults and the children are both doing work, but they're very different kinds of work. The adults are goal-directed. They are working towards a definite end. I need to make money so I can buy groceries. The children are not goal-directed. They work because nature dictates it. The adult work is complex and sometimes very dangerous, so the children can't come along. Perhaps in the past they were able to. If you were making food at home instead of purchasing at the grocery store, the children could help you cook. But today we have this division of labor, so it's harder for them to participate. And still, the children want to do what you're doing. Children consume a lot of resources. food, sleep, time, money, and so on. And the children are totally dependent on you. They're not producing their own resources to supplement that, especially not in early childhood. As they get older and they're more able to help, then that diminishes, and that's part of growing up, but especially at the beginning in the 0 to 7 range. Adults are using their minds to produce, which is hard when you're low on resources. If you haven't slept well, then it's going to be hard to do your homework. And yet the children want to do everything with you. For example, my son wants me to play trucks while I'm trying to lesson plan. There's a conflict there. He wants to help his dad while dad's working on the car, but the car's up on a lift, so it's too dangerous for him to be around there. He wants to help in the kitchen and make breakfast all by himself, but we are trying to get to school. There's a conflict. My husband and I have been remodeling our house, and we'd like to get it done, but one of us needs to care for him at all times. So these are some totally normal ways that this conflict comes about. The adult sees the child as a different and useless creature, and he keeps him at a distance. Or else, through what is called education, he endeavors to draw him prematurely and directly into the forms of his own adult life. So this quote is talking explicitly about that conflict, and what Montessori saw was that adults either sent the children away. You're going to go to nursery school. You're going to go into your playroom so I can get my work done. Or they would be sent to school so we could hurry up, come on, become an adult, become helpful, become useful. So that way they could quickly become a productive individual like the adult. And neither sending the child away nor bringing them prematurely to adulthood is the correct solution for helping children about this stage. Again, to make a man of 20 years, he must take 20 years. This is where elders come in for a partial solution. If you remember, Alison Gopnik, part of the human plan was that we have this stage of empowerment. Part of the human life plan is that we live in large family groups with a lot of mixed ages, including elders. Nowadays, this doesn't happen as much, but throughout history, for hundreds of thousands of years, this is how we live together. And elders played a really important part. Montessori herself doesn't speak of elders as their own category, only the broad category of adults, and sometimes mothers specifically. But even though she doesn't refer to this role, modern evolutionary psychology and anthropologists consider this role to be essential to understanding human evolution and human development. And you can see my references at the end of this for further reading on this topic. So what elders do is that traditionally they have stopped or reduced their share of productive work. They were adults in the adult category, and now they're coming out of this exploit stage. So what elders do, and what they're particularly good at doing, is empowering children by passing on culture, helping the children adapt to the world that they live in. Grandmothers teach skills, customs, and traditions. They tell stories, which help enrich the language and build relationships. And they play. They participate in the explore activities with children. Now, of course, it's not only elders who help empower children. Part of the role of the teacher is to do this empowerment work. But elders are in the particularly strong stance in that they are biologically wired to really enjoy this work. They get a lot of pleasure out of it. So the evolutionary purpose of this long tail of life was to support children in their development. So grandmothers are the original teachers. So we've seen a conflict. How can we help the children? There are two particular categories of things that we can do to help the children. We can provide for them. We can provide the material resources, and we can empower them. First and foremost, what everyone needs to do is understand the needs of the child and his important work of development. When we're providing, we can meet the child's objective needs of food, shelter, etc., help him grow and stay alive physically. We can provide a well-resourced environment for the child to do his work in. Montessori has prepared this environment. She calls it the prepared environment, and where it's specifically designed to help them do their work. And we remove obstacles to development from the environment. So this is going to be, we're going to remove dangerous things. So as the child is exploring, there aren't dangerous objects for them. We can take those out. That's just one example. There's many kinds of obstacles we can remove. For empowering the children, we of course need to understand the needs of the child and his important work. We're going to provide opportunities for the child to experiment and interact with the real world. And again, the Montessori prepared environment has this. We have practical life activities for the child to experiment. What happens when I pour the water on the floor? This happens. So they're seeing some causal relationships and interact with the real world. All the materials are hands-on. And we're empowering the child to learn by creating a place where they feel comfortable to explore. If they feel worried that they won't get to eat or they won't see their mom and they feel scared, then they're not going to be doing this exploration. So we can empower them by making them feel safe, and we can empower them by giving them lots of opportunities. Here are my works cited. I really love Alison Gopnik. She's written several books that I've read. I would recommend The Gardener and the Carpenter for sure, and I would also recommend The Philosophical Baby. And Sarah Hrdy is a wonderful author as well. Her books are a little more dense, but they're well worth it. I hope you enjoyed this talk, and see you next time.